We're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on Hull there. But then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
Oh, and I don't like the way Lexie Hull...
Remember this intense play from the last clash between the Indiana Fever and the Minnesota Lynx? Did Lexie Hull just deliver the perfect payback to Kayla McBride this time? The last time these two faced off, McBride's elbow caught Hull right in the face, and somehow, the officials still called the foul on Hull. But in the Fever's dominant win over Minnesota, Hull came back with a statement play that left the entire arena buzzing. This wasn't just a highlight-worthy moment. It was personal redemption, a reminder of Indiana's toughness, and proof that they're peaking at exactly the right time. This play represents more than just 2 points on the scoreboard. It's a snapshot of the Fever's late-season surge and their relentless playoff push. If you love that moment, drop some love for Lexi in the comments. She earned it.
Final score, Fever 83, Lynx 72. Indiana ends the regular season with an exclamation point. Fever have won 3 in a row as they enter the playoff.
What happens to a team when nearly half of its lineup is wiped out overnight? For the Indiana Fever, this wasn't a hypothetical, it was their reality. One by one, the roster kept shrinking as injuries piled up. Caitlin Clark was lost to a groin injury. Sophie Cunningham's MCL tear forced her to the sidelines. Sydney Carlson's season ended with a devastating ACL tear. Chloe BBY's knee issues wouldn't let her stay on the court. Ari McDonald suffered a fractured foot. Put all those names together, and you could build a playoff-worthy starting five. Yet every single one was stuck in street clothes, forced to watch from the bench. The result? Indiana was left with one of the smallest, most vulnerable rotations in the entire league. No amount of training camp preparation or depth charts could have braced them for a storm like this. They had to improvise, dig deep, and find a way to keep their season alive.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good with or without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
And then came the news that no one wanted to hear. Caitlin Clark's season was officially done. What had first been called a minor groin issue turned into a permanent line on the injury report. This was supposed to be her breakout rookie year, the campaign that would put the Fever back in the national spotlight and fast-track their return to relevance. Instead, it ended not with a dramatic playoff moment, but with a cold press release. For a team already depending on her spark to survive rough stretches, that kind of announcement hits like a gut punch. It drained more than just the locker room. It weighed on fans from Indiana to Iowa who had been living this journey with her. Clark wasn't just a box office draw. She was the emotional engine of the season. Losing her felt like more than an injury. It was a warning that the Fever's playoff hopes could fade away just as suddenly as she did.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. There's a work ethic and there's a work style. And to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
But with Clark limited to cheering from the sidelines, someone had to fill the massive gap she left behind. And Kelsey Mitchell answered that call. She didn't just step up a little. She completely transformed her role and became the centerpiece of Indiana's offense. Mitchell evolved into the franchise's most prolific scorer ever, shattering even Tamika Catching's single-season numbers. To put that in perspective, she averaged over 20 points per game across the season, 20 a night, while also running the offense, handling the ball, and facing constant double teams from defenses that knew she was the first name on the scouting report. Despite the pressure, she delivered. Mitchell's relentless scoring and leadership became the heartbeat of Indiana's attack, keeping their playoff dream alive at a time when most teams would have folded.
You know, kind of all the other things like offensive rebounding that she can do.
Knocked away. Boston comes up with a steal. Here's Mitchell veering through the paint and lays it in.
She's so quick, and especially when she gets out in the open floor, you'll see her coming down. The quick left to right crossover just gets by. I thought she was sprinting. I didn't think she was lumbering.
It was a lumber sprint.
Up for the big girl.
Mitchell like a blur. That's a
Boston shouldered the other half of that burden with quiet dominance. Night after night, she delivered a steady 15 points while hauling in more than 8 rebounds over her final 10 games. Numbers that spoke less about flash and more about trustworthiness. In a season gutted by injuries and constant lineup changes, Boston became Indiana's anchor in the storm. Her strength allowed her to battle bigger forwards, secure crucial rebounds, and extend possessions when the offense stalled. No matter how chaotic the rotations became, she was the steady presence holding the middle together. Her consistency even earned her a new franchise record for single-season rebounds, a milestone that perfectly captured her impact. Without her reliability, the Fever's defense might have unraveled completely, but with Boston in the paint, they always had a fighting chance.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint, sneaks through 2 and lays it in.
So here's the question. After everything they'd been through, could this team realistically still dream about a playoff berth? On paper, the logical answer was a clear no. But that's not how this story played out. Rather than collapsing under the weight of injuries and bad luck, the Fever turned every setback into a source of fire. The frustration, the revolving door of lineups, even the questionable officiating, it all became fuel to push harder. Players who were expected to just fill minutes suddenly transformed into reliable contributors. Emergency signings came in and put up double-digit scoring nights. Bench players embraced bigger roles with pride and refused to let the season slip away. This wasn't just survival, it was defiance, and it kept Indiana's playoff dream alive when it should have been dead.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
The true turning point couldn't have been clearer. The Fever stopped treating their avalanche of injuries as a death sentence and started using them as a rallying cry. That mental shift completely changed their identity. It reshaped how they approached every possession and how fans began to see them. By the time the Minnesota Lynx rolled into town, the storyline wasn't about who was missing anymore. It was about who was still fighting. What followed wasn't just another game on the schedule. It was one of the most emotional and defiant wins of the season. Why did this one matter so much? Because Indiana wasn't just playing out the string. They were staring down one of the best teams in the league, a Lynx squad that had been considered the gold standard all year. This wasn't simply about pride. It was about keeping their playoff hopes alive and proving they belonged in the conversation. The Fever didn't flinch. They came into the night already locked into the postseason, but with a huge opportunity to climb the standings. Win this one, and with a little help elsewhere, the 6th seed was within reach. To a casual fan, that might seem like a small detail, but to Indiana, it meant everything. A better matchup, a stronger path forward, and a statement that they were ready to sit at the grown-ups table when playoff time arrived.
Before the playoffs start Sunday tonight, it's regular season game 44 of 44 for the Fever as they host the WNBA's best team in 2025, the Minnesota Lynx.
What makes this moment even more powerful is how far the Fever had come in just a few short weeks. Not long ago, they had dropped 4 of their last 5 games. Their momentum had evaporated, fan excitement was fading, and national conversation started circling back to the same question. Had Caitlin Clark's injury completely derailed their progress? Most teams in that position spiral out of control, but Indiana refused to follow that script. Instead, they flipped the switch and fought back, grinding out 3 straight wins that completely changed the narrative. Each victory was a testament to a roster that had rediscovered its identity and refused to back down. The third of those wins, the one against Minnesota, carried extra weight because it came against a team most people believed Indiana wasn't ready to beat. That night proved otherwise and announced that the Fever were very much still a threat.
It'll be Alana Smith jumping it up against Aaliyah Boston. The ball is tipped, and it's time to hoop at Indy.
A 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana, and Minnesota wants a timeout.
Powers up top, tees it up, 3. It's good! Energy!
Kicks it out, Powers. You bet! Back-to-back threes from Aerial Powers.
The Fever double up the Lynx in the first quarter. It's Indiana 28, Minnesota 14.
It was the way Indiana took control of that matchup that finally silenced the doubts. From the opening tip, the Fever played like a team with a plan and the confidence to back it up. They jumped out to a quick 10-0 run in the first quarter, making it clear they weren't just there to compete. They were there to take over. By halftime, they had built a double-digit lead and never once looked like they were in danger of letting it slip away. Minnesota kept searching for momentum, but Indiana's relentless pressure on defense and the Lynx's ice-cold shooting turned every possession into frustration. Minnesota went just 2 for 20 from beyond the arc, and with every miss, the energy in the arena grew louder, feeding the sense that this game belonged to Indiana from start to finish.
Indiana is 4 for 4 from three-point range. Mitchell connects on a 3. Sims leaning jumper is good.
Kelsey driving left, puts it in off the backboard.
Built to it for the first half. Indiana shoots 58% from the floor.
A big part of the story was who stepped up to deliver in the biggest moments. Odyssey Sims, a recent hardship signing, poured in 15 points, and this wasn't just empty production. She came off the bench playing with the urgency of someone out to prove she still belongs on this stage, sparking the Fever when they needed it most. And then came Aerial Powers. With Minnesota threatening to claw back into the game in the second half, Powers drilled back-to-back threes that completely flipped the momentum. It wasn't just 6 points on the scoreboard. It was a momentum-shifting gut punch that told the Lynx in no uncertain terms. This game was Indiana's, and they weren't giving it back.
Mitchell, open 3. It's good. You can. Kelsey Mitchell is a hooper.
Passes Dantas left corner 3. Bullseye. Shot clock. Boston left block. Banks it in.
Natasha Howard deserves just as much credit for Indiana's dominance as anyone else on the floor. Her impact was felt every single minute she played, grabbing tough rebounds, switching seamlessly on defense, and knocking down shots when the offense stalled. She filled all the little gaps that appear when a team is missing half its roster and made sure the Fever never lost their rhythm. And it wasn't just her. Indiana's bench, the same group many critics wrote off earlier in the season, turned into the glue that held everything together. Rather than being intimidated by Minnesota's reputation, they looked like the deeper, more composed team. That's where the numbers tell the story. Indiana now sits at 24 wins and 20 losses, their first winning season since 2015. That record carries real weight because it represents the end of 9 years of false starts, failed rebuilds, and seasons that went nowhere. For the first time in nearly a decade, the Fever finally look like a team whose pieces are locking into place. This isn't about celebrating being good enough. It's about acknowledging that a cultural reset has taken hold. In the locker room, on the court, and in the city. The players feel it. The coaching staff feels it. And the loyal fans who kept filling seats in Indianapolis all season long can feel it too. And even though Caitlin Clark couldn't take the floor, she was still right in the heart of the action. Cameras caught her at one point literally signaling for a timeout, waving her arms like a coach on the sideline. She was calling out coverages, giving teammates instructions, even sharing light moments with the refs. It was clear that her presence still carried weight. Her teammates kept looking her way for guidance, and she delivered it without hesitation. Her influence hasn't slowed just because she's in street clothes. Coach Caitlin might not be an official title, but during that game, she might as well have been out there in a polo, running the show from the sideline.
Beat her down with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
So, was this win just a lucky break? Absolutely not. It was a deliberate, controlled statement from a team that's no longer just trying to hang on. They're proving they belong in playoff conversations, even without their brightest star on the court. And while the collective effort was outstanding, the moment that had everyone talking afterward wasn't just the final score. It was a single, unforgettable moment of redemption. That moment belonged to Lexie Hull. Her one-on-one showdown with Kayla McBride became one of the night's biggest talking points. And really, what's more satisfying than a team proving everyone wrong? Watching one player get the kind of personal payback fans had been waiting to see. For Lexie Hull, that moment started the second she stepped on the floor against Minnesota. Just a few weeks earlier, she had been on the wrong end of McBride's elbow, taking it square to the face. There was blood on the court, confusion in the stands, and then the jaw-dropping twist. The officials hit Hull with the technical foul instead of punishing McBride. What should have been a tough night turned into something outrageous. Fans weren't just angry for her. They felt disrespected on her behalf. It became yet another piece of evidence in the growing narrative that Indiana doesn't always get a fair whistle.
Just weeks earlier, she'd been on the receiving end of Kayla McBride's elbow to the face. Blood on the court, confusion in the arena, and then the unbelievable twist. Refs hit Hull with the technical instead of punishing McBride. The whole scene turned a tough night into an outrageous one. Fans didn't just feel angry for her, they felt insulted on her behalf.
So when Indiana found themselves matched up with Minnesota again, all eyes immediately turned to Lexie Hull. Every Fever fan was waiting to see her response. Would she avoid guarding McBride? Would that ugly moment still linger and throw her off her game? Or would she turn it into fuel and send a message everyone could hear loud and clear? The anticipation for some form of payback hung in the air before the ball was even tipped. This wasn't just another regular season game. It was a personal test of character, a chance for Hull to rewrite the narrative.
Here's Mitchell. I think that's a 2. Doesn't go. And now it's McBride getting Hull. And that one might be a problem. Indiana just taking shots to the face.
Hull's responsibility had already skyrocketed thanks to Indiana's injury chaos. With Sophie Cunningham sidelined, she suddenly became the Fever's only fully healthy wing, which meant logging heavy minutes, taking more shots, and playing with almost zero margin for error. In their previous matchup with Minnesota, Hull nearly played the entire game, racking up close to 40 minutes and dropping 23 points, her best outing yet in a Fever jersey. That performance changed everything. She no longer looked like a stopgap option. She looked like a cornerstone piece. And that confidence radiated through every drive to the basket, every jumper she took, and every defensive rotation she made. By the time this rematch rolled around, Hull had built up all the momentum she needed, and she was ready for her moment.
Tonight for Indiana, but then Carlton gives it right back, and Howard cashes in.
To perform like this, but they have 5 different players almost at all times who can bring the ball up the floor. Usually 4 or 5 were adept at making shots from deep. I mean, you just saw a big there creating her own look as well from Natasha Howard. Career high in terms of her field goal percentage, and you see her here, the little spin to the middle. That's a tough shot.
It all happened in the second quarter, when Hull found herself face-to-face with McBride at the top of the key. One quick dribble to her left, a perfectly timed hesitation, and McBride bit. She lunged, lost her balance, her feet tangled, and in a split second, she was on the floor. The league's cameras caught it from every angle, and the crowd instantly erupted as they realized what they'd just witnessed. Kayla McBride had been dropped, and it looked like her ankles had paid the price. Within minutes, The clip was everywhere, going viral across social media. Indiana fans called it poetic justice. Neutral fans just called it hilarious. For Hull, it was just another play in the game, but for everyone watching, it was a moment so much bigger than basketball. The energy inside the arena was electric. Teammates leapt off the bench, fans rose to their feet, and it felt like the entire building collectively exhaled, as if to say, finally. That crossover wasn't just a highlight. It was the perfect reversal. It wasn't revenge for an elbow, but it was justice written out in motion, one-on-one. Everyone who had been outraged by that earlier technical now had a new clip to hold on to. Instead of being the victim, Hull flipped the story completely, humiliating the very opponent who had once left her bloodied and turning the pain of that night into one of the Fever's most satisfying moments of the season.
One of those players who is messy, and she's on your team, you love her, and if she's on the other team, she's just annoying. Right? You just gets in and rip the ball out of Smith's hands and just end the effort.
Even beyond that viral crossover, Hull's defensive impact was undeniable all game long. She shadowed Minnesota's backcourt from start to finish, forcing tough shots, tipping passes, and completely disrupting their flow. The box score might not show every bit of that grind, but anyone watching could see she made it nearly impossible for the Lynx guards to get comfortable. Possession after possession turned into empty trips, helping hold one of the league's most dangerous teams to one of their weakest offensive nights of the season. And that mattered just as much as the highlight clip, maybe even more. What makes Hull's story so powerful is how closely it mirrors Indiana's journey. Written off, underestimated, hit with calls that made no sense, yet somehow, she still found a way to shine when it mattered most. The Fever keep getting cast as the underdog, but like Hull, they refuse to back down. They rise when the pressure is highest. Her crossover against McBride wasn't just a fun viral moment. It was the perfect symbol of how Indiana has fought through every injury, every bad whistle, and every doubt that's piled up this season. That single play summed up the grit and heart that carried them to their first winning record in almost a decade. Now the Fever head into the playoffs with momentum on their side, a city buzzing with excitement, and the promise of Caitlin Clark's return shaping what comes next. This is the moment where your support matters more than ever. Keep showing up, keep bringing that energy, because what we just witnessed isn't luck. It's the first real step in Indiana's climb back to relevance. So let's show some love for Lexi down in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of this ride. And tell me in the comments, do you think this team can shock the league and make a deep playoff run? Click the video on your screen now, and we'll see you in the next one.